third hour of the Elias Macko Show. Now, Donald Trump once again threatening Canada with steep tariffs, this time a 35% charge starting on August 1st. And unless Ottawa cracks down on what he claims is a flow of fentanyl crossing the border, in a bizarre and contradictory letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney, Trump praises the U.S.-Canada trade relationship while simultaneously issuing ultimatums. It's the latest in a series of tariff threats and actions targeting Canadian products like steel, aluminum, autos, and now copper. Let's go to Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business. He's an associate professor there. Ian, welcome back to the show.
My pleasure, Elias.
First things first, when this letter drops last night, you read it, what goes through your mind?
Oddly enough, and this may sound a little bit bizarre, but I'm slightly encouraged. Let me explain that. It seems to be contradictory. I think it shows that he does want a trade deal. Otherwise, he would just say, look, you guys, you're just wasting my time. Get out of here. Get back to Canada. I'm not going to talk to you, or my people aren't going to talk to you. But they're not. And in fact, they've extended the deadline, and so has the Canadian side. They've agreed to it. So that tells me that Trump wants a deal. Now, I did not say he wants a deal on any terms. I think he has a very clear idea. I think he has an agenda, and he is using these tariffs as a weapon, as a tool to intimidate us, yes, to motivate us to make some concessions. So what this letter also tells me at this time, because remember they've been negotiating now for, 2, 3, 4 weeks, I think what has happened is that the Canadian side, and we aren't privy to those negotiations. They're behind closed doors, and there's been no leaks. But it would appear that they think that Trump thinks that we aren't we aren't offering enough compromise. So I think he did this intervention, as he did with the digital service tax, to achieve an end. And he wants us to compromise. And I'm guessing it's on supply management, because he specifically mentioned it in the letter, and he's spoken many, many times over the last 10 years about supply management. So I think that might be one of the things he's trying to get us to move on and compromise on.
Supply management, which is the sacred cow in this country. Yeah. Now, yes, Ian, yes. One of the things that I've heard Donald Trump say, and specifically about the Canada-U.S. Trade relationship, I've heard him say, we have all the cards, right? And I want to get to that because I'm not sure how factual that statement is. But why don't we talk about the hands that each of these countries have? What are the cards that the United States really does hold? And what are the cards that Canada holds to fight back?
That's an excellent question. I've never received that question from a journalist. Not that I'm putting down your fellow journalists, because they're all very good people. But that's a very sharp insight, because nobody in negotiations has the same set of cards. It's just like playing cards. You don't all have the same hand. And the U.S. has strengths and weaknesses, and we have strengths and weaknesses, or we have advantages and disadvantages as they do. So let's get right to it. I have long argued, and I realize people in the manufacturing sector really don't like this, but I do not consult to anybody, not natural resource companies, not oil and gas, not car companies, etc. We are not a manufacturing superpower. We may think we are, but we are not. There's 3 regions in the world that are manufacturing superpowers. They're called Europe, Volkswagen and all those German automotive companies. It's called America, and it's called China. We are small potatoes. We're 40 million people, and it's very small compared to these big countries. And so we don't have an advantage in manufacturing, but we do have an advantage, by the way, in natural resources. We have a comparative and an enormous advantage. And I don't just mean oil and gas. I mean potash. I mean electricity, Hydro-Quebec. I'm talking timber in both Quebec, Ontario, and BC. I'm talking nuclear fuel, agriculture. Yeah. And so I'm saying that we do have advantages in that area, but I don't think we have a strength or a strong card in manufacturing, which is located overwhelmingly in southern Ontario.
So knowing what our hands are, how do we play those cards?
Well, I see the possibility of a deal, believe it or not, and let me just map it out very quickly. The new report from the IEA, International Energy Agency, which is a United Nations body, has a new report out on critical minerals. And it is a stunning report. China has over 90% market share in most of the critical minerals that are needed for the green economy, the digital economy. Copper being one of them, by the way, but there's quite a few others. And The U.S. has almost no critical minerals, and they are terrified of being held hostage by China, and understandably so. We have in Canada enormous amounts of critical minerals, but we haven't yet developed them because in the last 10 years, we put an awful lot of restrictions like Bill C-69, not just on oil and gas and pipelines, but on natural resource development, made it very, very difficult. I see a potential deal here where we say to Trump and the Americans, look, you need critical minerals big time, and you're being held hostage by China. And you, the United States, not us, you, the U.S., have said that China's your enemy. So we can be your preferred partner. And we can, if you agree to take all the tariffs off, we will expedite the mining and recovery and refining of critical minerals in this country that are in Quebec, in Northern Ontario, in BC, and some other provinces. And as I said, we're one of the largest deposit of reserves of critical minerals in the world. There's only a handful of countries that have critical minerals, by the way, large numbers.
Yeah, and something that I've talked about on this show time and time again, we're with Ian Lee. He's an associate professor at the Sprott School of Business. Can I ask you, in your estimation, has Mark Carney done enough so far as Prime Minister to unleash all of those natural resources?
He is going down the right road. I was very, very critical of the former government, and I'm not partisan, don't belong to any political party, do not donate money to any political party. But the former, the Trudeau government I'm referring to, put a lot of barriers, the no pipeline bill, the tanker ban bill, and so forth. Carney has, so far, he's only been in office, I guess, a month or so, he is going in the right direction. He's undoing or reversing quite a few of those decisions. The question, we have to wait and see whether he will execute and deliver, because that's critical. Well, I mean, we are sitting on trillions of wealth in natural resources. Premier Smith of Alberta noted at the Premier's Conference about 2 weeks ago, she said, if you only count recoverable oil in this country at the depressed low prices that oil's at right now, we have over $10 trillion. Jeez. And that's just one resource. And I'm not talking about just oil.
Yeah.
I'm talking electricity from James Bay. I mean, Quebec has been brilliant at its harnessing of hydroelectricity over the last 50 years since Robert Bourassa in the 70s. Brilliant vision. We've got potash. We've got nuclear fuel for the nuclear reactors used around the world. We've got agriculture. We've got trees. My goodness me. I mean, the mayor of Los Angeles said they want to rebuild Los Angeles from the fires with Canadian timber. So the point is, we've got to unleash. We have a comparative advantage in resources. There's no way anybody can ever lift up the Rocky Mountains or northern Quebec and move it to the United States. That's obvious. I'm being a little bit facetious, but you can't move that. Whereas we can lose manufacturing plants. They can shut down because they're no longer competitive because of the tariffs, and they can relocate to the United States, which is exactly what Donald Trump is arguing and demanding. I'm not saying I support that. Of course not. But we have a very weak hand in manufacturing. We have an incredibly strong hand in natural resources writ large.
So I have to ask you this then, the sacred cow of supply management, do we sacrifice it, in your opinion? Because we've heard the politicians say they will never do it.
I know. I believe they will, and it's a numbers game again. And I have done 2 papers on supply management. There's 8,500 dairy farmers in Canada, mostly in Ontario and Quebec. And look, they're hardworking. I don't dispute that. But there's 8,500. There's 40 million people in the country. Australia and New Zealand had supply management up to the late 90s, the only other 2 countries. And what they did was the government literally bought out because those quotas are very valuable. Every dairy farmer has a quota that is worth millions. So if we do agree to Trump's demand, we're going to have to buy off those dairy farmers and compensate them so they are not unjustly, they don't lose their capital investment unfairly. So I think, though, that it's a numbers game. Are we really going to risk not having a trade agreement with the United States, which is absolutely essential for our country, or just to protect 8,500 dairy farmers? Or are we going to compensate the dairy farmers for the greater good of a trade agreement for the entire country?
So I want to wrap with this because I keep hearing from people like, nope, Donald Trump, he just wants chaos. That's all he wants. We're never going to have a deal. It's going to be this and that, and we're not going to have a deal. And it sounds from you're pretty convinced this summer we will have a definitive deal, Canada and U.S. Is that a fair assessment?
That's very astute of you, and I'm being very serious. Yes, I do believe Canada's going to have a trade deal by the end of this summer. I believe that Carney is going in the right direction, and he's going to make compromises. He's got to bring public opinion along, because a lot of Canadians don't want compromise with Trump. But I think we are going to have a deal, and because Carney is a very smart man. He's an economist. He's a businessman, and he understands that we're the mouse, as Pierre Elliott Trudeau famously said, and the United States is the 5-ton elephant. They're the largest economy in the world, $30 trillion GDP. We're $2.3 trillion. We must have a trade deal with the largest economy on planet Earth. It is in our self-interest, not Donald Trump's interest, our self-interest. Carney understands that. That's why I think we're going to have a deal by the end of the summer.
Ian, now it's time for me to compliment you. You are a great guest. Come back anytime.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ian Lee is an associate professor at the Sprott School of Business.